And of course, climate change are impacting many facets of our economic and social lives. Yet, despite these challenges, we are presented with immense opportunities. Africa is becoming more connected, more innovative, and more entrepreneurial. Our success will depend on how prepared and committed we are to embrace this fast-changing future. And I want to thank all the other participants from across the globe for making this very important step to host this first ever summit in our part of the world. Among the world's regions, Africa has every reason to be optimistic. Our potential is undeniable. We are the world's youngest continent, home to a growing population of well-educated, highly skilled young people. Our lands are rich in untapped mineral wealth, including those critical minerals that are essential for global industrial transition. We also possess the largest areas of uncultivated fertile land and the vast reserves of renewable energy. As you heard from the governor of Nairobi, our own energy mix speaks volumes of what renewable energy can do and the scope and scale of the potential that exists for generation and for deployment for both economic, industrial, and other uses. This is a historic opportunity for Africa because we are the world's clean industrial hub, and encouragingly, we are rising to the occasion of actually appropriating that position. Accelerating our integration through the reform of the Africa Union, as well as our regional economic communities and mechanisms, including key institutions such as the Africa Development Bank, Afrexim Bank, and the Africa Union Development Agency, signals the giant is no longer asleep. We did, at the last Africa Union Summit, endorse these institutions because they understand our continent better to work with other global multilateral banks and financial institutions to position Africa appropriately, especially on matters of investment and the big elephant that is resources, especially from the private sector, to finance our own growth. The expansion of modern transport and communication infrastructure also shows that we are preparing for a predictable and prosperous future. Conversations are ongoing in the LAPSET corridor that will connect Kenya, Ethiopia, and South Sudan. The first almost 700 kilometers of road is being constructed. We will shortly be discussing the extension of the railway between Kenya, Uganda, DRC, and Rwanda into the heart of the Great Lakes. We are surely looking at how to connect Africa better. And as you're all aware, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area brings into being the largest single market of 1.4 billion people in 55 countries, with a GDP of close to 3.4 trillion. And the good news is that the building blocks towards the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, whether you're talking about the East African Community, or the tripartite free trade area that brings together EAC, COMESA, and SADC, that actually came into force last year in June, creating the building block for business, for investment, and for trade. Chambers of commerce are indispensable because they bring a proactive and solution-oriented perspective. Thus, the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and the World Chambers Federation serve as vital bridges between government and enterprise, helping businesses navigate risks, unlock opportunities, and expand into global markets. Their advocacy and support are empowering local entrepreneurs to think globally and act boldly. In Kenya, we fully embrace this transformation, and in 2022, 41% of our exports were destined for African countries. Our manufacturers and tech startups are expanding across the region, demonstrating our strong conviction that Kenya's and Africa's economic fortunes lie in intra-African trade and cooperation. We all are aware of the geopolitical situation in the world, but there still exists greater opportunity for us in this continent, even as we work on mechanisms to leverage networks into global trade networks. We still have a bigger opportunity in intra-Africa trade. And the realization by policymakers like myself that that is where the real future lies is a very welcome development, because it's now becoming more obvious that even as we look to trading with the rest of the world, there is a present and real opportunity in trading within the African continent, which is within our power. We can make decisions for what happens in this continent. And it is the reason why we are reorganizing the Africa Union. We are reforming the institutions of the Africa Union so that it becomes a fit-for-purpose mechanism for us to unlock the potential of this continent first, even as we look at what we can do with the rest of the world. And the coming into force of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the coming into force of the tripartite free trade area that brings together COMESA, SADC, and EAC, and our own mechanisms in the East African community are a testament that we are understanding the situation properly. So even as other mechanisms are being rolled out by others to do what they think works best for them, we also must think about what works best for us. And we can then have a conversation of equals at some point. And therefore, we are keen on working with institutions like the business institutions here for us to be able to have greater understanding and working together towards a win-win outcome. As we discuss the opportunities that Africa presents, from the young continent that we are, to the mineral resources that exist in this continent, to the energy potential and resources that exist in this continent. As we discuss those opportunities, it is very important for us as a continent to realize that these opportunities can be unlocked better if we spend more in sharpening our human capital. And that is why Kenya, for example, is spending $5 billion every year on education, because the demographic dividend that we have will be more useful, better aligned, and sharpened if we deploy it when it is empowered with knowledge, skills, and competences. We're spending 30% of our budget on making sure that our young people acquire knowledge, acquire skills, and competencies that make them not just a Kenyan workforce, but also a globally competitive workforce. Deploying also in a space of social services, including health, becomes a major component for young populations like the one we have. And it is the reason why we are also deploying enormous resources on matters to do with health, especially our focus on universal health coverage. And this is all in line with where we think the continent will be going. And just for the record, we're not focusing just on the assets that we have as a continent. These assets must give us value. The continent of the past, where Africa was a source of raw material, is going to change. It is bound to change. And it will change, because our populations are better informed, our young people have more knowledge, our governments are getting more democratized, and therefore Africa is going to be looking at partners who will work with us on unlocking this potential, but not just unlocking the potential, but also unlocking the potential for value addition, for processing, creating local jobs, and creating wealth and value from the assets that we have. That is the future we are looking at as a continent. And we will be, with much more clarity, and much more intentionally, be working with partners who can work with us to unlock this potential. It is the reason why, for example, Kenya is investing $1 billion in our special economic zones with the Afrexim Bank. Because in our special economic zones, we can add value to our leather industry, we can add value to all the other agro and other industries. And it is in that context that we are looking at partnerships going into the future. Despite global headwinds, Kenya's economy, for example, last year grew by 5.6%, outpacing global trends. Key sectors like agriculture, services, and manufacturing are rebounding. At the grassroots, micro, small, and medium enterprises are the backbone of our economy, employing over 80% of our people. Their main constraints being limited credit, infrastructure gaps, and climate risks are in truth opportunities waiting for innovation and smart investment. Because if you look at the MSME sector, they pay very high interest rates, yet they still make money. If there was financial innovation that has products, like we tried with the Hustler Fund, it's amazing how Hustler Fund today, despite the fact that it has no collateral, up to 90% repayment is happening. You would expect that a financial product that has no collateral and therefore individuals would have no incentive to pay back. But they are paying back because they see the value of the low interest they get in that product. And that is why repayment is all the way to close to 90%. And these are innovations that can be rolled out, scaled up, and we are looking at partners who can work with us to be able to access more credit innovatively to the private sector. As part of our bottom-up economic transformation agenda, we are focused on uplifting those at the base of the economic pyramid. And we are investing in agriculture, MSME, health, housing, and digital and creative economy. Our goal is to catalyze a bottom-up surge of creative and productive opportunities through strategic investment and targeted interventions. We have made remarkable progress in digitizing government services. 20,000 government services have been digitized, streamlining business registration and launching the Unified Business Permit in Nairobi, as the governor said, with more counties set to follow. Our investments in infrastructure, from railway, highways, and border posts to markets, fiber optic networks, and renewable energy, continue to support enterprise and economic growth. Devolution is a powerful force for bottom-up transformation. And county governments have and continue to play a crucial role. Together with the devolved chapters of the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce, counties must champion pro-business reforms, eliminate bureaucratic bottlenecks, and support local entrepreneurs. To encourage this, we are developing a county ease of doing business index to drive healthy competition, accountability, and progress. Whether we look at Kenya or any other African country, the signs are clear. Africa's future is bright. Through collaboration, investment, good governance, private sector innovation, and a reform-driven approach, we are ready for takeoff. In this journey, chambers of commerce will play an increasingly critical role. Kenya, for its part, is committed to remaining open for business, regionally engaged, and globally ambitious. Let us therefore move forward with shared purpose to unlock Africa's vast potential. What we achieve together, driven by this collective commitment, will shape a prosperous present and even greater legacy for generations to come. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that there will be intense engagement by the different actors, business people, chambers of commerce, leaders of industry in this two-day event. And I am looking forward to getting an outcome of your decisions, especially those that are connected to policy decisions that we need to make it much more easier for business, for investment, for trade to flourish, so that together we can create synergy in areas that create a win-win outcome for business and for our countries. And therefore, I really wish you my very best as you engage in these 2 days, and I look forward to the outcome of this meeting as we work together towards a better business environment and investment climate. Thank you very much. God bless you, and welcome again to Kenya.
Thank you.